Welcome to the In My Opinion show with Henry Hatter and friends. Today I have Rick Wilson, a conservative Republican from Southwest Genesee County. Rick, let us talk about the Republican Party. But first of all, you're a conservative Republican, and there are many people who don't know what that means. Can you give us an idea of what a conservative Republican is, or a conservative period versus a liberal?
Well, I guess to start off, we very much believe that each individual is a unique and wonderful human being, that each individual has the right to make their own decisions, they have the right to run their own life, they should have the liberty and freedom to make their own decisions, and they should not have a lot of other people telling them what to do. Now, within that limitation, of course, they can't break the law, they can't play their music too loud to bother their neighbors, but they have the right to live their own life. And given that, they are also responsible for the actions that they do. So if they're an upright citizen and they do great, then obviously what they're responsible for are the great actions to improve the community. If they act irresponsibly, or if they decide that they're going to do something knowing that there is, a punishment to it, then they should be willing to accept that punishment for what they do. So, for example, if someone wants to parade where it's illegal to prove a point or something like that, then they should be willing to accept that when the police come, they're going to spend some time in jail. And that's part of the civic responsibility, that you have as a conservative. So basically, the individuals, we 300 million American individuals, can run this country better than some people in Lansing or Washington telling us what to do.
Now, quickly contrast that with liberal.
Well,
Just in
yeah.
50 words or less.
Yeah, real quick. The belief there is that there's a limited number of elite people that know what's better for you, for me, for your friends, your neighbors, your sister, your husband, all 300 million of us, and that these elite people that don't have to live by the same standards as the rest of us can tell us what to do, how to behave, what we can buy, what we can drive, that they want to control our life because they know better for us what we want than we know ourselves. And that's the basic disagreement.
Okay, now, Rick, what we want to do this afternoon is to have fun with this process. There are a lot of people out in the viewing audience that have never seen you and have never seen, come close, or hearing the real philosophy of the Republican Party. So what I want to do is have fun with you, and I'm going to raise some hot button issues to get the blood pressure of our audience going so that they can engage in our conversation, okay?
Okay?
Now, if there's time, I would like for you to demonstrate your knowledge of world affairs and national affairs, which I understand that you're a real professional.
Thank you.
As you know, Genesee County, some data shows that there are 5 non-Republicans to every Republican. And if that is true, then why do you buck the system? Why are you a Republican? You can't win anyway. How will you make a difference? And what's your fate when you go out if you were to run for a candidate?
Well,
As go ahead, please.
Purely, most folks have the same social values as we Republicans have. Most folks believe that the family is paramount. Most folks believe that marriage should be between one man and one woman. That's real marriage. That our children are a treasure for the future, and we want them to have a better life and a better future. Those values are rock solid, our values. Now, how we achieve those versus how the liberals achieve those or the progressives achieve those are very different. But getting across not only this is what we want, which agrees with you, but this is how we would achieve this and how that is a better vision for the future, for everyone involved, is the only way that we can get across to everyone. Certainly, it's a very high hurdle. This county has been, by past voting records, approximately 70% Democratic. That is a very high leap to get over, but it's not an insurmountable obstacle. And as Lou Penton, the chairman of the 5th District, said, there are a whole bunch of folks in this county that ought to wake up in the morning and realize that their values are our values and that they should be Republicans. And I believe that in my heart.
Okay, a rumor has it that the National Republican Party under Michael Steele has a variety of cultural groups in his focus, and that would include African Americans, Native American, Hispanics, etc. Um, do you think, is this a good thing for the Republican Party? Because the Republican Party has always been able to win without these minority votes.
Now, certainly the demographics of America are changing. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But with that demographics, it says that, we're not the party of rich old white man, and I guess I'll just present myself as a poor middle-aged white guy. Um, we absolutely have the values of the Hispanic community. We absolutely have the values of the black community. Now, what a person's color is doesn't matter. It's not important. It's not that, our heritage is not vital to all of us and a belief in our past and what it is. And that's true for me as well as it's true for you. But together, we need to talk about the ideas that matter. What are the great things that we want to do for the future? What are the great things we want to do for our children and our grandchildren and their progeny so they can live in a country that is the country that we want them all to live in, the country that our parents brought us up to live in. And by that standard, that's the standard that I think that what Michael Steele is doing, what our Republican Party is doing, not that we have said we're not going to go, work with these folks, but we're going to work with them much more aggressively, much more completely. We may disagree over a variety of things, but we are willing to engage everybody and anybody because no American should be left behind in the ideas and opportunities that are presented to them. And no American should not know what we stand for and why we believe what we believe.
What would you say to a Republican who don't believe that and who would say, well, Rick, in the last 40 years, the Republicans have held the White House for 80% of the time, and we don't need outsiders, we don't need minorities. What would you say to that?
Well, again, outsiders and minorities. My question would be, what's outside about them? What's minor about them? It's what their ideas are. It's what their beliefs are. It's how they think. Again, the color of their skin, their ethnic heritage is personally important to them. It's something to be proud of. But that's not what Republicans are. Republicans are about ideas and beliefs, and it matters not who they, what group they came from, what color their skin is, what sex they are. That's not what matters. So absolutely, for us to realize, not only do we have to include everybody in our opportunity to understand ideas, we absolutely have to understand the demographic changes. And if we're going to be just a small, shallow, little, inconsequential party, then it's time to tell the Republicans goodbye and start a new party that does include everybody. But I don't think that's where the Republican Party is headed. And those folks that think that we should not include everybody in it that has the beliefs and the values that we do, I think it's flat out wrong, and they're going to have their minds changed over time.
Rick, there are some statistics that show that Barack Obama got in excess of 20% of the Republican vote. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think perhaps in this last election, more than any other election that I've seen in my lifetime, and and maybe I wasn't paying enough attention back in 1960 when John F. Kennedy ran against Richard Nixon. There was a real dearth of debate about ideas. There was a real dearth of debate about what were the policies, what were the actions that we were going to do to affect America. And, it was a contest between hope and change. And unfortunately, John McCain, in my estimation, did not do a very good job in running in the election against Barack Obama. I mean, there's no doubt that President Obama is a vital, intelligent, human being. That speaks extremely well, that can put forth a turn of phrase that will absolutely bring the crowd up on their feet. And that's a wonderful thing to do. But if you step back from that and realize, okay, what are the policies behind that, then all of a sudden all the cheering becomes empty, in my opinion. So that there are some Republicans that didn't dive into the issues, or some Republicans that really didn't look at what's behind the curtain, is a real shame. And I think those Republicans are going to come home in 2010 and 2012.
Well, the Democrats didn't go home in 1980, and they elected President Reagan, the Reagan Democrats. They did not go home until after 2000. So isn't it likely that you can assume that the Democrats would stay with Barack Obama? Is Barack Obama a two-term president? Let me ask you.
It is possible that he will be. Even today, while his policies are getting continuously less popular as more people look at the spending, the health care, the foreign policy, no matter what it may be, that it is doing, his policies, or his popularity for his policies is down to 54%, which is a new low for him, and there's no reason why they're not going to plummet well below 50%. But his personal popularity as a charismatic, energetic human being still has his own personal popularity up there, and a lot of people are never going to look beyond that. So he does have that possibility that he will succeed in 2012 despite his policies.
Okay, I just want to roll out for you real quickly. I got to run on because I want you to touch some issues on which you are professional at. 48% of Americans say that they would vote re-elect Barack Obama. This was a poll taken by AOL.
Well, and hopefully that means there's 52% that would vote to not re-elect
Okay.
Barack Obama.
38% of GOP have an unfavorable view of the Republican Party.
Well, there's no doubt that many of the policies of the Bush administration, Bush 2 or Bush 43, George Bush, did not sit very well with what we consider to be our beliefs and values within the Republican Party, especially fiscally. And there were some differences in lots of different aspects of what he did, but especially with his proclivity, and apologize for that word, the fact that he spent like a drunken sailor, as it was put, did not sit well with a lot of Republicans, and a lot of his spending programs were. But at the same time, on the economic side, we believe that his tax reductions were a carefully crafted, well-run program, but he didn't back it up, with a reduction in spending like he should have.
Now, again, just to throw these out, you don't have to respond to them, but I want you to know what others are thinking. 67% of Americans say that they have a favorable view of Barack Obama. And this poll was taken about maybe 3 to 4 months ago. I know that his ratings have died since that time. 52% of Americans, American vote went to Barack Obama. 52%. That's a large amount in recent years.
But at the same time, if you look at it in the historical, and you look at the real landslide victories, for example, the victory, in 1984. When Reagan got almost 63-64% of the vote, et cetera, the victory by Obama, 52% to 48% basically, was a clear victory. There's no doubt about that, but it wasn't an overwhelming mandate by any stretch.
Now, just by contrast, and I've given you those who were favorable to Barack Obama, the Republicans who are favorable to the Republican Party, only 7% of Democrats say that they have an unfavorable view of the Democratic Party. So there are some gaps there that we've got to overcome. Just moving on real quickly, how do you view Republicans who voted for Barack Obama? Do you view them as renegades or communists?
I have to say that I really don't think I know any, so I've never had the opportunity to engage any in a conversation. B, I would suggest to them that they need to take a good look in the mirror and decide what their basic beliefs and values are, and whether they are consistent with the Republican Party. Again, the individual responsibility and authority for our own lives, or whether they believe in the someone else telling us what to do aspect of it. And that's one of the breaking points for whether you are a Republican or not a Republican. And they say they're in favor of President Obama, from aspects. And yes, I know people who voted for him, they're just not Republicans. They need to have a hard look in the mirror and make some choices, because maybe they ought to join the other party.
Rick, I'm going to ask you to foreshorten your questions just a little bit.
Okay.
But I'll encourage you if we need more dialogue on it. There are those who wish that Republican Party would just go away. We don't need Republicans.
Well,
And
there are those of us
probably
that wish the Democratic Party would go away.
yes,
So,
no,
hey,
no, no.
we,
I was hoping you'd say that. No, because we got balance there. Now, how valuable is a two-party system to democracy?
a two-party system is invaluable. Now,
Why would you want a party to disappear?
I don't want a party to disappear.
The Democrats to
what-
disappear.
To say that jocularly, joking, but I would wish that our Democratic Party would take a look at the history of their party and where they were when John F. Kennedy was around. Who they were, when FDR and his foreign policy was around. And, they took a very, very sharp left turn in the late 1960s. And I would suggest that they study themselves to see where, a major part of why I think the Democratic Party needs to reinvent itself happened. And that's a part of it. Another aspect of it is, again, partially what we'll get to talk about today, a little bit about economics and such like that. There's some aspects of history that they need to look at themselves, and figure out. But I'm married to a wonderful Democratic lady, and I certainly don't want her to disappear from this earth. And I would hope that the Democrats would stay out there to continue to challenge us, to have us consider all of ideas, to make sure that we know indeed why our foundations are what they are and our beliefs are what they are.
Well said by a good American. Now, moving right along. How will you use the GOP, the Republican Party, to provide you the platform on which you would run as a candidate and be successful with the values and the resolve to be on a winning slate?
Now, the GOP, the Republican Party, is still a vital, integral part of this community, even though they are not the dominant party within Genesee County. There are a lot of extremely committed people within the Genesee County GOP, within the 5th District GOP, Tuscola, Saginaw, and Bay County also. And all of them together, have a great reservoir of strength and ideas and possibilities and support that I think is a great structure to begin with.
Okay, now I've given you statistics about the ratio of Republicans to non-Republicans in Genesee County. Specifically, some statistics show that Republicans are about 17% of the population. They're 43% Democrats and about 37% independents. Now, using that ratio, how will you go out and approach the population so that you come up with 50% of the voting population to carry you to victory?
Well, the first thing is to be willing to engage everybody in a conversation. Be willing, to put forth our ideas boldly, to put them forth, with the proper clarity. And again, to have that kind of discussion. Now, you win voters over one at a time, and certainly it's a slow and lengthy process, but that's the way the American system works. And with the independents, the folks that have got some ideas on this side, some ideas on the other side, there's nobody on this earth that agrees with anybody else on this earth 100% of the time. So to try and find, here's where our common ground is our common ground much greater than our uncommon ground? And with that aspect of it, I think the majority of the independents in this county, would agree with what the Republican Party represents.
Rick, Republicans and minorities have not always worked well together, okay? And there's some suspicion on the part of those who don't live in urban communities of minorities. How will you thread between these two issues to garner the support you need from both sides to carry your platform to victory?
Well, hey, in my 35-year career at AC Sparkplug, then Delphi, what is now a parking lot on Dordt Highway, certainly that was a fully integrated work community. I hired in 73, and it was already fully integrated when I got there. When I was in college, I had black roommates, and again, I had a great time with the Omega Sci-Fis. Given that environment, in working with members of the black community, attending the black churches, to get a flavor and an understanding for what's important with them. And certainly, from the religious aspect, we're in complete agreement. There are a lot of my friends there that are at those places, and that's a beginning to start that kind of conversation that will expand and grow with other people. At the same time, just like what the mayoral candidates have done, and what the folks that are running for the city council are doing, there's going to be some door-to-door activity, and then there's going to be those kind of individual conversations, because the one thing we cannot do is ignore these wonderful people that
Rick,
should be part of the
I gotta
process.
fast forward you now because I only
Yep.
there are only
Yep.
4 minutes left.
Okay.
Now, I understand that you're running for Congress, right?
That is correct. I am a
so-
Republican candidate for
A
Congress,
conservative Republican candidate?
a conservative Republican
Okay.
candidate for the seat that is currently held by a certain Democrat.
Now, what is the fundamental difference between the way Bush went after resolving issues with the economy and Barack Obama? What are the fundamental differences, real quickly? Just tell
yeah,
us.
yeah.
What would
Re-
Bush
yeah.
have done differently than Barack Obama?
Well, and unfortunately, Bush, to a certain extent, was Barack Obama light, just like Herbert Hoover was Franklin D. Roosevelt light. And this is the part where we disagree. President Bush did do Stimulus One last spring. Economically, that's not the correct thing to do. That's not what has historically worked. That's not what's done the best for us in the past. And he really needed to, get rid of some of those advisors that he had. Henry Paulson as Treasury Secretary. I don't think Ben Bernanke was a real good choice for the Fed. So that he wouldn't spend the money that he spent, to try and stimulate the economy, which has obviously not stimulated the economy at all. And now Barack Obama has gone that triple, quadruple, quintuple, gone a lot further down that same path. And yet, is our economy being stimulated? Is our employment in Michigan going up? Do we have jobs here? Are jobs being created across the country? And the answer to all those is no.
Okay, I'm going to ask you real quickly with respect to the health care program that's now unfolding. Mitt Romney, governor of Massachusetts, some years ago had advanced a national health care program. And I understand that while the judge is still out on that, but he did some good and made some inroads. Should President Bush have passed a national health care plan?
Well, no, I don't think that Bush should have passed a national health care program. The program that Governor Romney promoted, that he actually implemented within Massachusetts, the cost estimates for that is going to cost 10 times as much as every single estimate that was ever put forward when he was governor. There are still 10% or more of the people of Massachusetts that are not covered. There are a great number of people that are happy with it. And Massachusetts is losing population, somewhat similar to Michigan, because people there can't take the high taxes and the ineffectiveness of the government, and that includes the healthcare program that takes away their choices, that takes away their ability to work with the doctor they want the way they want to.
Okay, was the Community Reinvestment Act under Bush a causative factor in the housing crisis?
Well, first of all, you have to go to the Community Reinvestment Act under Jimmy Carter for whether that was a good thing to do. And understand that there's only one color that bankers see, and that's green. And there are, not that there was never racism, not that there isn't some now, and it's unfortunate. It's in all sides of every group. But it was never anything like what was promoted by their liars, their damn liars, and their statisticians. And the way the statistics were used to prove that there was rampant racism within the banking community against minorities was an absolute distortion of the data, was absolutely wrong. Did we need to make sure that there was fair play, that everything was above board? Yes, we did at that time. I don't think we need it now. And yes, by lowering the standards, so we loaned a whole bunch of money to a whole bunch of folks that really were very, very poor risks to pay it back. by reducing our banking standards is something we should have never done, and it played its part.
Now, was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac causative factors?
Fannie Mae, they were not causative factors all by themselves, but the way the politicians, because they were semi-public, semi-private corporations, and especially the Chris Dodds and the Barney Franks, really used them, as well as got a lot of donations from them to promote their ideas that helped to create the banking crisis.
Well, our show, unfortunately, has come to an end. You've been a great guest. I hope you'll come back. I wish you well in the future, and I'm sure that our guest will be looking for you to attend the churches and the picnics. They want you to become a part of them, perhaps, if you're the right guy. And with that, this is the ending of the show. I'd like to thank you again, Fred Wilson, candidate for Congress in the 5th District.
Thank you, Andy.
This is Henry Hatter and friends saying, until next time, stay focused.